Hello and welcome to Core Finance in association with the Next Exchange. I'm joined by Frazer Thompson, who is the CEO of Chapel Down Group PLC. Thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Pleasure.
So let's start off, Chapel Down. Talk us briefly through the story and how you've come to be one of the UK's leading wine producers.
Well, blimey, how far back do you go? Well, it's been we've been something like 15 years, people thinking we're bonkers, and then Taittinger plant a vineyard next to ours in Kent, and suddenly we're visionary geniuses. But if you go back 15 years, we identified really an opportunity, I think, based on the terroir that was existed in England at the time, chalk, the most precious commodity in the wine world, what champagne is grown on, and the opportunity to grow grapes on that chalk. And for a long time, we were continuing to try and build stocks of that wine up and sell it. And really in the last 7 or 8 years, it's just exploded. And we're now stocked in, from number 10 Downing Street. We're one of 1,000 companies to inspire Britain. We're a cool brand officially. We're in the Walpole Group. We're in Gordon Ramsay. We're in Jamie Oliver. Suddenly this thing that we thought was going to be interesting has just exploded into life. And it's genuinely a joyful story of actually how you can create something almost from nothing.
And you're listed on the Next Exchange. What has that enabled you to achieve as a company and maybe take the company to the next step?
Well, we were lucky a long time back to get an investor called Nigel Ray involved. And so that was in 2004. And we were on the edge, we were listed on OFX at the time. And actually the OFX was really no more than giving us the discipline of being able to present ourselves as a serious company. So we had to go through the processes and disciplines of being a listed company, albeit the rules are slightly softer than they are on AIM. And it served us very well over the years. And in fact, although it's not the most massively traded stock, actually Chapel Down is traded about as frequently as a mid-cap stock in AIM, in fact. So it's not a hugely traded stock, but it does give us a market for this. And actually, as a consumer brand, it's important that we engage with investors. And they see the value in having a value to what they see on the Next Exchange. So it's given us discipline, it's given us a core from which we've built.
And you mentioned brands. Now you've built yourself up as a brand. What has that allowed you to do and develop the company and diversify?
Well, Chapel Down at its core, we're a winemaker. It doesn't matter how big our beer gets, or our gin, or our vodka, or our retail business. Actually, we're a winemaker, and that's the gift. That's the real insight. Was actually as a winemaker, we're given license to do things that other people simply can't. So a winemaker's beer is always going to be more interesting than actually even a brewer's beer. So it brings something interesting and new, because winemakers are given this gift of not really caring what the consumer thinks. They do what they think is right. They have a connection with the earth. And that sort of branded value in that is hugely valuable. And so we're starting to see the benefit of that with the beer, for example. So we're doing a beer that nobody else can do. Craft beer is fine, and it's really interesting, and it's booming. But lots of people are chasing the same goal in that. And it's very difficult to make something that's genuinely unique and uncopyable. Well, a winemaker's beer is very difficult to copy if you're not a winemaker. And we use champagne yeast, and it's given us another string. And that's been very important, because wine is a very cashly generative business. It takes a long time. You've got to plant vines, you've got to wait 3 years till the grape comes off, wait another 3 years before you're able to make a bottle of wine. Beer, on the other hand, is much more of a cash machine. And so the two work very well in harmony together. So we've been able to build a business from the wine base and give it a beer business a really unique proposition. And so that's really gold dust for marketeers. It's something that's a genuinely unique, hard to copy, global potential phenomenon. And that's what we've got with the beer, and it's a phenomenal success. So we're really chuffed with what we've done with that. And then of course we've got gin. And so gin, there's thousands of gins out there. Why would you choose Chapel Down gin? Because it's made as only a winemaker can make it. It's made using the skins of our grapes, and so it is unique and distinctive. And that's really what this company is all about, doing things that other people can't or won't do. We're seeing the large drinks companies, for example, are starting to sort of outsource all their innovation to M&A. Because what drinks company would ever have come up with a crazy idea of English sparkling wine? And that's the kind of thing that happens, is that they couldn't. Now they're looking, and it looks fantastic. And it's, you know, we want to be the market leader in that market.
And
we are the market leader in that market.
Fantastic. And you've been able to raise capital through an open offer recently of 18.5 million. What are you looking to do with that capital?
Well, firstly, it's a transformative sum of money for us. I mean, bear in mind this is almost twice last year's sales is what we've just raised, and we've raised it at, you know, 5 times sales value and 68 times EBITDA. It's been a fantastic investment for us. But what it gives us is really a huge opportunity to do all the things that we wanted to do and do them contagiously. So firstly, we need to plant up more vineyards. So the one thing about our business at the moment is we just can't make enough of the stuff. So planting more vineyards, that's priority number one. Number two is bringing those vineyards to fruition and building the stock levels up with it. Number three, pressing the gas really quite hard on the beer side. So we're building a brewery in Ashford, and the opportunities for us to grow that beer are phenomenal, which is why we've hired the former managing director of Brewdog to come and join us, along with our LVMH business director, who we hired to run the wine business. And then finally, we've got a sum of money for dry powder, effectively, and that can be for acquisitions, but it could also be for building the business as it currently is. So, for example, the gin and the vodka, which we a no-cost development of doing that. And if we wanted to step on the gas on the gin, we could do so, for example, or start rolling the industry up. I mean, we tended to think that actually English wine will at some stage mature like all other markets around the world, and we want to play our part in helping to consolidate that market over time. So when the values seem to be correct, we'll be in a great position as market leader, and with, you know, plenty of cash and good value paper to be able to do some great deals, I hope.
And you've already kind of touched on what it will allow you to do. Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 12 months or maybe 24 months down the line?
Well, in terms of a company, we see ourselves as the most exciting drinks company in England, and actually it's a journey towards getting to that. So one thing we do need to do is continually engage with consumers and make sure that we're selling and engaging with consumers with what our story is. So priority number one, I know that sounds a bit kind of obvious, but it is the single most important thing we do. This company is all about its brands, and brands are all about engaging with consumers. So we've got to make sure that's correct. The second thing is to try and make sure we've got the people and the systems and the processes in place that we are a genuine grown-up company rather than a kind of entrepreneurial startup that's kind of fudging its way through. I'm not saying that's where we are, but we do need to make sure that we're professionalising right the way through the network. So that's attracting and retaining really the best talent. So we've started that process now so that investors can feel comfortable that we've got a fantastic group of people doing a wonderful job for them. So that's really, you know, 12 months to 24 months, that's the initial plan. And then obviously the longer term plan is basically to conquer the world.
And finally, more on a personal note, what wine would you recommend from the Chapel Down stable? I have tried a few and I am a big fan, I must confess. What would you recommend maybe for the coming months to drink straight away, not to lie down?
Nothing stays in my cellar for very long. So Fizz obviously is fantastic, and if you can afford the Kitts Coty Blanc de Blanc, then you should buy that, or the Three Graces. Fabulous Fizz, will suit you all the way through the Christmas period. And with your lunch, the Christmas lunch, I'd suggest the Chardonnay that we do, which is a really fantastic substitute for Burgundy. It's better than Burgundy and half the price. So buy that.
Super. I'm rushing out to order one as we speak. Frazer Thompson, CEO of Chapel Down Group, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.